Made it in time this time.
We will wait for a quorum and then we will start the meeting.
So I am not going to be able to stay for the 2 hours. I have,
No, I don't expect it'll be that long.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Unless- yeah.
I'll be doing both items, and I don't know, the budget update might take 20 or 30 minutes, but the other one's a really short presentation.
Thank you.
Definitely get you out in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Thank you.
And as soon as we get quorum, we'll start. We have Eileen, so we now have a quorum. Thank you, everyone. So I am going to call the Friday, August 22nd, 2025 Tumwater Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. And Council Member Althauser will be a few minutes late, but other than that, we have Council Member Agabi, Council Member Swarthout, and myself. So we do have quorum. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee from July 25th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved to second to approve the minutes of the Financial Committee of July 25th, 2025. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have approved the minutes. Next, we will have the monthly financial update, and our finance director, Troy, will go ahead and present.
Okay. I think I shared the wrong thing. Hang on a sec. Sorry about that. Okay. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Still in, yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, and welcome everybody. For the record, I'm Troy Niemeyer, the Finance Director, and we will jump right into our monthly budget update. And we'll start as usual with sales tax. Unfortunately, this meeting, I think, is our earliest Budget and Finance Committee meeting yet in terms of the calendar date. It's only the 22nd, so we have not received any state shared revenues for August. We haven't received any utility revenues for August, or sales tax, most importantly. So we'll just keep that in mind as we go through. It's not unusual that we haven't received it at this point in the month, but this one's even earlier than normal, so I knew there was no chance we'd have it by today. So this, as usual, is the month over month sales tax collections. And as you'll recall, last month in June, we had a pretty good month with a 4.2% increase. July was not so good on the month over month basis. It was down 7.3%. But for the year overall, on the month over month basis, we're down about $75,000, which is a 1.3% decrease over last year. This slide here is just showing the first 2 quarters of the year. And so this is through June. We actually shared this one last time. So at the end of June, we were only $6,000 below on the month over month basis, or 0.1%. We're down obviously a little more now in July, through July. And then this one is the budget to actual. And so, as I often do on these slides or these numbers, we've got year to date through August would be 66.67% of the way through the year. However, since we haven't received most of these revenues, we can look more at this at what July is, which is about 58%. And so, budget to actual for sales tax, we're at 51% received of budget, and about 58% through the year. So, so that is lagging behind a little bit still. Yes, council member.
Oh, just curious what the new businesses that'll be coming in. I know that they're probably smaller ones, but the ones that are coming in over there by Home Depot, be interesting to see when those start to come in, like our little Wendy's and the
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
when those start to
Um,
come in, have we? So those probably they didn't open yet, so I don't know. Will those be reflected? Do you think on the August one? Have we seen any of that
prob-
yet? Do you think reflected on any of the reports so far?
I don't think we've seen much yet. Typically sales tax is about 2 months behind.
Okay.
And I think there's at least a couple over there that have been open maybe for a couple months.
Okay.
So we might start to see them show up in when we get the August numbers.
Okay.
But yeah, the Wendy's and the oil change place are open, so that's exciting. I don't know if I don't think any of the other ones are open yet,
Right.
but as they come online, certainly that's gonna help. Every little bit's gonna help.
Mhm.
And as those, we get, so when, for new construction, we get, that'll also help our, property tax for next year. Because we'll get a bump in property tax from those new buildings as they get valued and added to the tax rolls. And then we do get sales tax on new construction also. So as they finish these buildings, we do get a sales tax bump from the materials and supplies they use in the buildings. So that is a very positive development that's upcoming. Um, So let's see. We'll go now to public safety sales tax. As we discussed last month, we're finally in a place where we're getting some meaningful comparable data. So we've got for both June and July, we've got comparable months, and we are a little bit ahead for June and July. I do want to point out that sales tax is sales tax, and this is just a piece of our sales tax that goes for special purposes for public safety. But I just don't want to confuse us because this sales tax looks good, but the other sales tax is behind a little bit. It's all the same. It's just the way it was budgeted, and we had used Thurston County's estimate of this from a couple of years ago, which was just a little more conservative on the budget side. So that's why one looks positive, the other one looks negative. But it's just all sales tax. B&O tax, you may recall, was oh yes, council member.
And then we haven't accessed that yet, correct? As far as because you're looking at balances on that one. So totally, like total in the fund, what would be what's our balance then? Is it 89 or
It's
what? Or no, 92?
about,
Is it 92? Is that what?
no, that's just for
No?
July.
Oh, okay.
The 92,000, that's just month over month.
Okay.
So that's the July number that came in.
So we
The
haven't accessed that yet, correct?
Not yet. It
Okay.
is in the budget to access it starting this year.
Right.
And the way we'll do that is we will we collect it in a special revenue fund.
Mhm.
So we track it separately. And then at the end of the year, we'll make a transfer from that special revenue fund
Mhm.
into the general fund
Mhm.
to basically reimburse the general fund for those public safety expenses.
Be
And
curious to see what the balance
yeah,
is so far. Yeah.
I think it's up to about 1.5 million, but I've been looking at 2,000 line items of numbers, so don't quote me on that.
Wait, you don't have it memorized? Come on, Troy. Okay,
I
just
do
curious.
my best.
Okay, just curious because yeah, we need to see how much that is accrued. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so B&O tax has kind of been one of our really bright spots as opposed to sales tax. Unfortunately, that did not continue for July. Here, you'll see we had almost an $80,000 decrease on the month-over-month basis, which was 11%. But year to date, on the month-over-month basis, we're only down 15,500, which is less than a 1% change on month-over-month. However, transition to this slide, back to the budget to actual numbers, and staying with B&O tax. It's the third one down right here. On the budget to actual basis, we're really only 58% through the year from from the collection standpoint. And we've collected 71.5% of the B&O tax. So that one's actually still doing really well overall. Same other numbers on this slide, of course, property taxes, as we talk about a lot. That's going to start looking worse and worse on that percentage basis until November, when we get our big second chunk of the property tax. But that's okay, because that's expected. Sales tax we talked about. Utility taxes is looking great. Building permits, we've already exceeded the entire revenue budget. So that's great. Some of that's it's all due to new construction, but some of those increases could be related to those large projects going on that we talked about a few minutes ago. Medic one is doing well. There's always a lag time in that one too, because we're incurring expenses right now for August, and then at the end of the month we do the billing and submit that to Medic one, so that takes a month or two to catch up as well. TMPD is looking good. Some of our grant funds, both commerce grants and sustainability grants, are doing good, and we've got the money coming back in to reimburse us for those. Let's see, the public safety sales tax we just talked about. Miscellaneous here, this is the one towards the bottom. That one's looking pretty good. That's the state shared revenues, and again, none of those yet for August. So if we compare the 62% collected to the 58% through July, we're doing great on those. And then Parks and Rec, it's a smaller revenue stream, but it does help cover a lot of the costs of our staff putting on the Parks and Rec programs and things and maintaining the parks. And that's looking good. Moving over to the expenditure side, the general government line here, that includes kind of the back office folks. It includes you folks, the legislative branch of the government, executive, non-departmental, finance, HR, attorneys, all of that good stuff. So 52% expended, 66% of the budget. I will include on this also, similar to how we talk about with revenue, where we are versus what we've received or not received for this month. For the month of August, we've had our first payroll, so we've included in these numbers is the first half of our labor, all of our wages and benefits, but not the second half yet, because we don't get paid until the 25th. So this will come a little bit closer with that. But it's still looking good. And so the other departments, police, 52% spent, fire 62, TED is 43, sustainability most around 52, pretty consistent, and then Parks and Rec 61. Not surprising, it's their busiest time of year during the summer. So but overall, so total expenditures compared to budget, we're at 55%. So under budget overall for the general fund. So that's looking good. Moving over to the utilities, I did something a little different this time. The top section here is basically the same one we look at each month. That's the entire water fund. All the revenue, budgeted and actual revenues and expenditures. And we talk about how these percentage numbers are really small because we've got the big capital projects programmed in here. So we've got the maintenance and operation facility, as well as the big water storage tank project, which really just makes these numbers look weird. So what I did below here, this is water without the capital projects. And so I stripped out both the revenue and expense related to those large capital projects so we could focus in and see how are we doing just with regular operations and what's that look like? Because that's really what we want to know, or at least one of the things we want to know. They're all important. And so when we look at it that way, again, 66% of the way through the year, sort of, the revenue we've collected is 53.6, and on the expense side, it's 41.6. So both looking pretty good there. See a question. Lisa.
Thanks, Troy. Can you generally review why it is that you show a negative number across all of the columns when you're talking about total revenue?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and I didn't even think of that. Thank you. That's how the accounting system is set up. And so when I run these budget to actual reports, the revenues come in as negative numbers, and the expenses are positive numbers. So when if you add them all up, they kind of offset that way, I guess is why they do that.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, revenue is negative and expense is positive.
Yes. Money coming in and money going out. Without
Okay.
getting too technical.
That's why I failed
Opposite of
accounting.
what our- Which is kind of opposite of what our brain works like, right?
Right.
Unless you're a finance person, unless you're a Troy type person. So thank you, Troy. Just wanted to, have you address that. Appreciate
Of
it.
course. Yeah. You betcha. Okay, so that's water. And so we'll go through all of the utilities. So sewer, same thing. This is overall like we've been seeing month to month. Sewer's not as bad because the water fund would be paying most of the money for the water storage facility. Makes sense. But still we down below here there is capital components in there, so stripped some of those out. And revenue is when we do that, well, revenue's still way ahead for that. There are some other capital projects in sewer that I didn't take out because they're state grant funded. But I took out like the big revenue bonds, the financing. The grant ones I left in. On the expense side, it's actually just a hair high, but with the revenue being so much higher, not concerned about that at this point.
So Troy, back to
Yep.
sewer. So for example, we did the Ensign sewer main replacement project, and I would assume that that's actually showing up under the actual. So that's one of those capital projects that might have impacted the year-to-date expenses in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
that's another thing. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's a good point because as I go through this and I'm looking at them, looking at the projects and looking at salaries and wages and other things to where I get some comfort with it, kind of knowing that, but I don't always think to explain that. So. Okay, stormwater, similar again, the whole fund on the top and then stripping out the big capital projects on the bottom. Still looking good. And then golf has been, we did similar thing with golf. Again, on the top, everything included. On the bottom, I did take out a capital lease, a capital project, and also the general fund support that goes to golf. So again, focusing more on the day-to-day operations, and how everything's doing. And so, and again, no, golf is always a little farther behind than others, or typically at least. Oh, Councilmember Rothhauser, welcome.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm late. So for golf without capital, does that mean that doesn't include debt service? Or are we done with debt service? I know we're close.
We are, I think we're done with debt service in 2025. And so it does still include debt service. I think there's 300,000 or so programmed into golf for a capital project, that I stripped out of there. Again,
Okay.
just to focus on the bottom part and just to kind of focus on the normal revenues and expenditures of the business side of things. And golf
Thank you.
is, oh, of course. And golf is behind a little bit, again, because they have they have a point of sale system where they collect all their revenue. Well, let me clarify. On the revenue side, they're typically a little bit behind because no, they're always a little bit behind because they collect their revenue in a different system. So at the end of the month, they get all their system reports and everything and send that to us, and then we put that on Munis. And so there's a little bit of a lag time there. It is caught up through July on the revenue side. The expense side is always accurate, or as accurate as it can be, because it's mostly payroll and other expenses, and those are all paid through Munis. Those are not paid through a separate system. So on the revenue side, and this without August revenue, August is 66% of the way through the year. Without August revenue, they're at 67% of their revenue projection. So that's trending in the right direction. I hear they're doing well out there. However, as the bad weather comes in later in the year, that's going to fall back off percentage wise because there'll be less people playing golf in the rain. On the expense side, whether you look at the 60, well, looking at the 66% through the year, they're only 50% spent on expenses. So doing well on that side of things. Okay, and then we had a similar slide to this last time. I just updated a few things on it to talk about the economy in general a little bit. Still a little uncertainty about tariffs. I hope they're mostly done and settled, but we don't really know that for sure. Last month we talked about the second quarter GDP. It hadn't come out yet. It was forecast to come to be a positive 1.7%. It actually ended up being a positive 3.0%, so better than expected. So that was nice. We are starting to see some crack. Well, sorry, this is the upside. I should have shifted this one. The unemployment rate is still low. That's the upside. It did tick up a percentage point from 4.1 to 4.2 in July. We don't have August yet. So moving over to the risk side, we are starting to see some weakness or some concerns in the overall labor market. We talked last time about risks related to if the president were to fire the Federal Reserve Chair and what that could really upset financial markets. The president did, you may have heard, fire the head of the Labor Department. That's not so much a short-term concern, at least from what I know about it, but it certainly could be a longer-term concern because putting someone in that the Labor Department provides all the numbers where we get the unemployment data from and other economic data, and it's really important to be able to have some trust and some certainty in those numbers, and to fire the head of that department because you didn't like the numbers one month puts some fear and some concern into the financial markets and investors because they want to be able to have faith in those numbers. And putting a less qualified person in the position who I don't want to say what they're going to do because I don't know. But based on past history, this could be a person who manipulates the numbers in favor, the way the president wants them. And I say that because if you remember back in COVID, early on there was a cruise ship offshore that had a bunch of people infected with COVID, and the president didn't want that ship to come ashore because then the numbers would go up. Well, that's manipulating numbers, and so we don't want unemployment numbers or other key economic data manipulated. We need the markets, the investors, they need to have trust in those numbers. And so that's a long-term risk now that's been introduced since last time we met. Still, Yes, Mayor.
So yeah, you're still going through that. I just had a question. Tariffs seem to be, kind of like some of the other things, on again, off again, on again, off again. So should tariffs, are they nearly done, or should those be also put over to the risk category? Since there seems to be no rhyme or reason or anything that we can keep from one day to the next if they're going to be raised or not raised, so.
That's a good point. I think last month when I did this slide, I think I put it on the upside in hopes that tariffs were nearly done, and then I just left it there. But you're correct. It could really go on both sides, because if there are more changes or more, yeah, if there certainly is a risk that there could be more changes to tariffs, which could have bad negative effects on the economy. Yeah. Let's see, kind of some of this. So yeah, inflationary policies, which includes tariffs, and other uncertainties, geopolitical tensions, China, those were left over from last time, as our natural disasters. Main thing I changed, the other thing other than the Labor Department, down at the bottom here, this last bullet and the two sub bullets, just a note about inflation. It actually, overall inflation did not increase in July. It stayed the same. But if you look at core inflation, which strips out food and energy prices, that actually went up. It was 2.9 in June, and it was 3.1 in July. So I would say I would kind of interpret from that if core inflation rose, but overall inflation didn't, that means food and energy prices actually came down to help keep overall inflation level, if that makes sense. So anyway, it's just another one of those things where, there's this kind of like unemployment, where there's this big key number that we focus on, but there are other numbers to pay attention to as well. Okay, so to current events, our audit is well underway. State Auditor's Office is, well, I was going to say they're here. They're not here in person, at least not yet, but they're here virtually, and I think they've got 7 or 8 people working on our audit right now, and they are keeping us jumping in the finance department. Nisa's has taken the lead on being the audit liaison and getting all the information they're requesting. She's been doing a great job. The audit of the financial statements is well underway, as is the federal funds audit, or what we call the single audit. And the accountability audit, they've kind of started planning that, but they haven't got too far yet because they're focusing on those first 2 right now. So that'll be going on for a little while still. And as a reminder, about an $80,000 estimate for the audit. We haven't got their final estimate for this one, but that's what we had budgeted for. And that is my last slide for that. And let me stop sharing in case there's any questions.
Any questions? No, I think that's very comprehensive. I think and it's hard to do all this when there's so many uncertainties.
It definitely makes it a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of fun doing this. This takes a while for me to take those, what is it, 2,000 or 2,500 lines of data and squeeze them into a presentation. But I learn a little bit more each time I do it, and think of things like, like with the utilities on this one, stripping out the capital projects to make it focus in more on the operational side. So it's definitely a good exercise.
So if there's no other questions, I'll have Troy do the next item, which is the intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with the National Purchasing Partners.
Okay, this one's really short. This is, as the mayor said, Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, National Purchasing Partners, or NPP Gov for short. So this is a contract similar to the state contract where there's an organization that has banded together a large number of entities and used that purchasing power to negotiate favorable money-saving contract terms, mostly related to EMS products and services. So this is really the fire department that uses this contract. I think we first signed onto this contract, or at least the most recent version of it, in 2020, and there's not really any substantive changes to this. It's just updating contact information for the most part, and a few new terms, but nothing too substantive. So just more of a continuation with some very minor updates. And so our recommendation is to place this contract I don't want to read the whole thing. Place it on the consent calendar on September 2nd if you agree, or if you'd like us to take this to the full council, we could certainly do that.
Great.
And I'll open it for questions, but I'll leave this on there in case anyone wants it to read it for a motion.
Any discussion on this or questions? Councilmember Swarthout.
So this is just looking through it, it's just an update, just the background part just said, primary changes or staff contact information. So that's all this, it's just updating our information, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just trying to make sure I do my due diligence in reading it. So thank you.
Mhm.
So does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to place the intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement with National Purchasing Partners for goods and services. Will it be on the September 2nd?
Yeah.
Okay, on the September 2nd, 2025 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, moved by Councilmember Swarthout, seconded by Councilmember Althauser. Any further discussion? All right, with that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And I do we have any additional items? I think that covers it. So thank you,
That's it.
Troy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so with no additional items, we are adjourned and everyone can actually have part of their lunch break. Thank you.
Aye.